What's up, everybody? It is Zach of the Dark Conservatarian YouTube channel. Still on hiatus, but there was just a little bit of something that I kind of wanted to get off my chest. Talk about certain development as of recently, regards of Ben Shapiro, and then also get this general subject, commentate about this general subject I'm about to talk about. But so the whole transgender school shooting that happened was very contentious. Both sides were both the right and the left had faults in their own right as far as what positions that they were taking. And I guess it should be more specific, both right and both conservatives and left-leaning liberals. That being that left-leaning liberals, of course, they wanted to say, institute more gun control and so on and so forth. There was conservatives that were saying we need to start taking guns away from trans people. And Ben Shapiro was no exception of one of them. And before I go on any further, what's the word I'm looking for? One second. Before any of my detractors go laughing too hard at me, what I'm going to be essentially ranting about right now, you all know that you have felt this before. You know how it feels. Don't tell me that it's not happened to you before, because you know it's happened to you before, of where that a certain political icon that you are that you kind of look up to for information and to help steer a little bit of your thought process when it comes to politics and whatnot, they suddenly go betraying not really just your political beliefs that you thought aligned very squarely with theirs, but also betraying their own political beliefs to the point of where that you feel kind of disenfranchised to want to support or listen to or like them anymore. In regards of Ben Shapiro specifically relating to the shooter incident, the trans shooter issue, he said, I know this mainly from Blair White's video talking about how that there was plenty of conservatives, namely Ben Shapiro's clip that she had played, where that Ben Shapiro said that I am totally fine with people with gender dysphoria not being allowed to own guns. Of course, there's a little bit more to that, what she played in that clip, but you get the gist of it. And I cannot find the exact episode, the full episode that this might have taken place at. I tried, but it did not seem that I could find it. The exact video that had the exact same background, exact same clothes, and what facial hair he was wearing at the time as well for that episode. So I do not know for certain if she's taking something out of context, Blair White, I mean, but I'm just going to take it at face value for right now. But as a libertarian, I shouldn't have to really say as to why this is so wrong right here. And not just as a libertarian, as a conservative as well. As we conservatives, well, I'm mainly a libertarian, but I still have a lot of sympathies with conservatives as well. But those of us on the right are against gun control, generally speaking, especially against the whole, frankly, dog whistle, or maybe not dog whistle, but whatever term you want to say, of universal background checks. And normally those universal background checks entail restricting people with certain mental illnesses from owning guns. And as Mr. Dapperton said in a video before, and plenty of other gun rights advocates have said as well, if you are mentally ill, you are more likely to be a victim of a shooting than to be the cause of a shooting. So why restrict them? But even just then, not every single mental illness, maybe even none of them, will inherently mean that you are going to definitely go on a violent killing spree. Or I will not say none of them. There might be one or two, but out of the dozens of mental illnesses that we have diagnosed people with, very few of them inherently mean that a person is going to get violent. And as far as gender dysphoria goes, or anybody being trans, they aren't inherently going to start to go and shooting up a bunch of kids. So it's nonsensical, quite frankly, from that perspective. But also, it's a little bit hypocritical and all the same, because is Ben Shapiro and conservatives going to start advocating that we start restricting people with PTSD, veterans who come back from war with PTSD from owning a gun, stuff like that? No, I don't think they would. So this is just very inconsistent, and it's very, very freaking disappointment. Almost more disappointing than some of his other stances that I have disagreed with on and that I'll commentate on later. But this might be the breaking point of where that I don't listen to Ben anymore. And it's just got me so frustrated. I hate having to jump from political icon to political icon. My main number one political icon that I go listening to anyways, whoever is my number one at the time. And for a while, in my earliest childhood, I guess it was a Rush Limbaugh, but then again, I did not know exactly why it was that I sort of looked up to him. I was just in some kind of a Republican echo chamber, quite frankly, that did not really have much nuance, or at least the nuance wasn't explained to me that well, or maybe I was just too young and dumb to understand the nuance of the different political factions around in the world, and the different nuances of people's political beliefs, political subjects, etc. But regardless, I went for Rush Limbaugh, who might be one of the most, frankly, unnuanced of political talk show hosts when he was around. I mean, I still pity for the fact that he died, rest in peace, but still, I mean, just to be honest. And then later on in childhood, I would listen to Mark Levin. The biggest reason why he became my number one is because he honestly gave me a little bit more of an established reasoning as to why to love the country that I live in, that being the United States. Not for what it currently is, but for what it once was, minus some flaws, slavery, and more precisely for the idea that America was supposed to be. Like, ideally speaking, America was supposed to go without slaves. I mean, Thomas Jefferson tried at least to put in an amendment so that slaves were no longer a thing, but he kind of failed in that because he was just outnumbered by all the other pro-slavery delegates at the time of the ratification of the Constitution and whatnot. But yeah, so Mark Levin helped to establish that. There was also the fact that he went criticizing against establishment Republicans, so it gave me a little bit less. How do I even put it? It gave me a little bit more establishment in my beliefs and a little bit more awakening to the realization of that not all Republicans obviously are going to stand up for the beliefs that I hold dear, yada yada yada. And so but then later on in 2016, he would still be criticizing establishment Republicans, but he would also be critical of Trump as the heightened heat of that freaking primary happened. He eventually became a never Trumper, and then that set me down the path to follow suit of being against Trump. Like at the very beginning of the primaries, I was kind of considering Trump as like my number 3 option of all the candidates running. I would have safely voted for him. My thought process was at the time. But later on, as the primaries heated up more and more, Mark got more critical of Trump. I started becoming more and more disenfranchised with the idea of ever voting for Trump. Eventually, he said that he's going to count himself as never Trump, for the reasoning more precisely of Roger Stone being in cahoots with Donald Trump executing on all these bully-like political tactics as far as running for president or running the running the political game just in general. This might be a little bit rambly, but nonetheless. And lo and behold, it's kind of happened nowadays. I mean, Trump is trying to bully people into being subservient to him. Mark Levin was right. He was right at that time. It was a little bit of a fortune cookie moment for him right there. It's happened now, although Mark Levin probably would like to try and downplay his own claim that he made back then about Trump specifically, just to, suck him off. But getting on with it, though, of course, Mark Levin, he later on endorsed Trump in the general election, rather hesitantly, mind you, and I was okay with that. I was still going to listen to him on every now and then. Then he started to alienate more and more people who were never Trump, even though he was a never Trumper just not too long before that moment. Starting being overly critical of those of us who were considering voting for third party. And eventually I did vote third party. I voted for Evan McMullen back in 2016 in general. And yeah. Then later on, fast forward to 2020, I would find out that he would absolutely lie for Trump's behalf, saying that Trump did not throw his money around both left and right to both Republicans and Democrats. You guys saw my video on that. And I said in the video that I would not say that it's an absolute deal breaker, that I would still listen to him on occasion. But lo and behold, I haven't gone back to listening to him ever again, because I was just that disenfranchised. Although I did listen to the one program of his of when that he was deciding to mourn the loss of his friend Rush Limbaugh, again, rest in peace, but that was the last one. Did not go listen to him for any political news or talking points or philosophy or anything else like that ever since then. Yeah. It kind of sucked to looking hindsight. I really liked and respected the man, and nowadays I cannot really consider him worth listening to ever again, unless if I want to just find out what the opposition is saying. And by the opposition, I'm meaning the Trump cult, that I'm going to call it. And after Mark Levin, I would listen more to Steven Crowder, because back in 2016 and 2017, I thought he had a fairly enough in-touch personality with the little people. This was back way before he had 1 million subscribers. Back when he had just 300,000 subscribers. That's how long that I had been listening to Steven Crowder. And plus, Steven was honestly, he was a little bit more, he was also fairly critical of Trump when need be. Much less was he actively sucking Trump off during that time. Even in 2018, when the shooting of Parkland, yeah, I think it was Parkland, when that Trump was starting to buckle when it comes to gun rights, Steven Crowder was mocking the fact that people were saying, oh, this is a 3D chess that Trump is playing, as to why that he is saying I would be for renewing the assault weapons ban, when Trump was saying that. That was about how critical that Steven was. The main thing that kind of disenfranchised me and made me unsub from Steven Crowder, though, was when that he decided to back out on ever debating Potholer 54. And in hindsight, maybe that was a little bit uncharitable. Maybe I should have given him more of a chance. But as the years went by more and more, it just, he did not have the same personality. His personality was coming off as more fake and uncomfortable to listen to and whatnot. And it just really did not motivate me to go back listening to him. And then fast forward to present day, there's all this drama that he's having with Daily Wire about the contract, which really, he should have just dropped the issue as soon as he said no. He should have just said, no, I'm not going to join, and leave it at that, instead of trying to make a big old fuss about it. But anyway, to try and stay on subject, that was probably the first thing that made me think, if I did not unsub from him back then, I would have unsubbed from him right now. Stopped supporting and respecting him right now. Because he's just being so petty and picking these fights and whatnot. Then fast forward, there is the Mike Landau interview as well, but I haven't actually listened into depth as to about that. But I guess Mike goes in, revealing how much of a narcissist that Steve can be, how much of a control freak he can be, and also then fast forward even more. There is the footage released about him being unloving to his wife. I guess for a while they were technically deciding to divorce already, but I do not even care. I don't even think it matters anyways. I mean, sure, I'll care for more context if there's more footage of that video that can be found and shown on the internet for me to listen to. But even just going off of what was shown in that clip of Stephen arguing with his wife, Hillary Crowder, it's still pretty freaking disgusting. The guy just is being nonsensical in his reasoning about as far as the situation of the car goes, saying that she should just that she doesn't get the car in spite of the fact that she needs it in order to get groceries. And I can't remember exactly if it was he was going to be allowing of her to ride with her friends or ride an Uber, but it's just he was disallowing of one or the other and was just restricting her down to only one option. It was either Uber or ride with friends. By the way, he was discounting one of them for his wife and definitely discounting her taking the car to go get groceries. What kind of sense does that make? And plus he says, "I don't love you," in response to her saying, "I love you." I can't even. It hurts and disgusts me to think about. Is there really any context that can really save Stephen from that sort of piggery? Fuck. Yeah, you can probably tell that I have a little bit of stuff that makes me almost empathize with Hillary on that front, but it's just it just hurts me to think about it and just talk about it. But if none of that would have made me unsub and disrespect Steve, then that definitely would have. The Daily Wire drama, and then the definitely the clip of him arguing with his wife. Unbelievable. But and then fast forward to Ben Shapiro. Like, Ben Shapiro has been getting almost increasingly more and more anti-gay, frankly. Like, it's one thing for you to be for standing up for traditional family values, a traditional family unit, that you would prefer that marriage was just between a man and a woman and the family was just a married mom with their husband, you know, the mom and dad staying in the family, married as husband and wife, raising the kids for the full 18 years or whatever. Yes, it's one thing to be preferable of that, and I would agree with any other conservative who is of that belief. But to be advocating that the government gets back involved with marriage, to be freaking out about there being absolutely any inclusion of a gay character in a movie, it's just like, oh, come on, get off of it, dude. Like, Strange World has a lot of problems, and I thought they handled the gay relationship very cringily, frankly. But it wasn't just merely of the fact that, oh, it's a gay character in a movie that made it so cringe. It was how they handled it that made it so cringe. But I'm not going to go into that much further. But he once had the stance of get the government out of marriage. And then suddenly, in most recent months, he's saying get the government back into marriage. We need to get the government back into marriage and like redefine marriage to be strictly between a man and a woman, to not be between a man and a man or a woman and a woman. And just the videos that I listened to him of commentating on that, him and Matt Walsh too, for that matter, it almost heavily implies that they want to outright ban them from getting married or having any sort of legal union, let's say. Putting semantics aside as far as the definition of marriage, it's almost like that they want to just ban homosexual relationships, the way that they're wording it. Like, I cannot tell for certain if that's what they actually believe, because they're just being so dodgy with their language or whatever, but it comes damn well close. And it was disappointing enough right then, but then the straw that broke the camel's back is probably going to be this. His commentary on the trans shooter, Ben Shapiro, I mean, and saying that people with gender dysphoria probably should be banned from getting guns. Fuck that. Really. But yeah, it's just like, who can I look up to for news and information? I mean, the older and older I get, the more and more I realize that it's probably a bad idea to have those political icons, to be relying on that one person to be the arbiter of breaking things down for you, because you don't really get the time yourself to break down politics yourself, because you don't really have the time to read these mass amounts of internet articles and so forth to break down a news story for you. The more and older I get, it seems that you might as well just give up, that I should just give up on having any political icon at all, or anyone that I solely rely on for that. I mean, I guess I'm still kind of reliant on a Ranting Monkey, sort of, even though that I find him to be a little bit edgy with his commentary on Ukraine. Like, that sometimes gets me on edge anyways. How he seems to, I don't even know how to put it. It almost seems like he is just a one step away from saying, yeah, let Russia conquer Ukraine. Who gives a shit? Maybe they should even be advocating for it. Or maybe they should even just go ahead and win the war with Ukraine. I'm not saying that they actually do. They do emphasize that they think that Putin is a piece of crap, but they definitely say that Zelensky is a piece of crap, and I don't care what people's opinion of Zelensky is. I don't know if you guys knew about that, but what I definitely don't want to happen is Russia to conquer Ukraine, and it almost seems that them two just, at best, don't give a shit, or at worst, want Russia to conquer Ukraine. Or maybe I'm just being a really uncharitable right there, and they absolutely don't want Russia to conquer Ukraine. Not sure, but it definitely gets me on edge with the way that they comment on the Ukraine conflict. But yeah. And I'm also like listening to Young Ripper 59, Eric July, but who knows? Maybe sometime in the future he will go like Nate the Voluntarist and go. As it stands right now, Eric July calls himself a capitalist, is very well outspoken for private property rights and so forth, and free market exchange, hiring people for whatever wage you want, etc., etc. But who knows? Let's say like in the future, that in the near future even, that he goes away of Nate the Voluntarist and borderline practically calls for the seizure of the means of production. Which, by the way, I'm gonna come. That video is probably still to come, talking about Nate, but not to say that Nate actually does currently call for violent seizure of the means of production, but he gets close to it. And who knows, maybe Eric July will eventually get to there, where that he's saying, ooh, private property bad, ooh, wage labor bad, ooh, rent bad, oh, that all needs to be gotten rid of, and not being exactly clear on whether they want to enact force to get rid of that stuff. But yeah, it's just something that I wanted to get off my chest. I don't know, how much does this like frustrate you guys as far as people like betraying their own principles to disenfranchise y'all? It kind of upsets me. I mean, I'm not gonna play coy about it. It legitimately does disappoint me. Anyway, I've gone on way too long in this video. Maybe this video will get viewed by quite a few people, maybe not. Who knows? I don't care. But I'm still on hiatus, y'all. Soon enough, might be coming to the end. We'll see what happens here in the next few months, but we'll wait and see. For right now, I'm Zach of the Dark Conservatarian YouTube channel. Y'all have a good evening. Have a good one, and God bless.